So now it's the last file inside of the mod folder. If we use our update file, just duplicate it, just copy and rename it to remove. And if we now open this file, we are going to check first after the try, opening try block. If isn't empty, rather than ID, it's going to be IDs because we send the number of IDs separated by this vertical bar, as you may remember. So now IDs equals post IDs. And rather than done, we can remove this one. We're going for IDs array equals explode function. And we're using this vertical line. And then we go for IDs variable. So we are splitting all this and creating the array using this explode function. And then placeholders equals implode. And we are now gluing all this with a comma. And we use array after comma as well. Array high underscore fill 0 count. And we're counting IDs array, then comma, and we want to use question marks. And let me explain what that actually does. So the implode method simply does the opposite of the explode. Explode divides the string based on the first argument and creates the array out of the string, basically. This is the divider. Implode joins them using the first argument, which in our case is going to be comma. We don't need the space here really, but I just tend to keep it. So that will create the array. This will create the string out of this earlier created array. But now array fill, what does this one do? Array fill will basically create the array of the third argument. We need the question marks. So this is going to be the array of question marks separated by comma. How many? As many as we've got IDs in this array, basically. As many as we've got records in this array, because obviously we're using count. Count takes the array and tells us how many records there are in this array. So many, and starting from what index? Sorry, I'm going just backwards, basically, but that's how it's going to, that's the easiest way to explain it, actually. So we've got from 0 index, basically, which means from the beginning of the array, so many records, and so many, and this sort of character, basically. So this is going to create, let's say, if we've got 3 records, it's going to create array of, actually, sorry, it's not going to create the array, it's going to create the string like question mark, question mark, question mark, if there are 3 records. So this is what this specific line of code will do here. Now, we go for the DB the same way as we had before. So we obviously creating the connection to our SQLite database, and then set the attributes to make sure that we're using exceptions for the errors, and then SQL statement. It's not going to be update, it's going to be delete from items, and rather than set, we're going to have where ID, and rather than question mark here, it's going to be in, and we use in between curly brackets placeholders. Because these placeholders, as I said earlier, will have a set of question marks, basically based on how many records there are in this array. So delete from items where ID is in this specific selection, and I've got double dollar symbols. Obviously here I need to remove one. Okay, so that's our SQL statement. Then we go for the prepared statement. Again, we passing this in. I'm going to use this array of these IDs here to pass on to this execute statement. Now we don't need the array function because what we are actually putting here is already an array. So this IDs array is already an array, obviously. We keep this execute statement with the exception the same way we had before, and the response is precisely the same. So that's our remove file now completed. If we save it and preview our page in a browser, if I refresh, you remember earlier we've selected these 2 records. If I just open console and clear it so that we can see precisely what's happening. If I click on the clear completed button, there we go. The records have been removed. The call to the remove file has been made, and obviously we return error of false, which means everything was executed successfully. If I refresh the page, you can see these records are gone for good. So if I now add another one, once again, let's do the beans, and I want 2 kilograms of beans. If I add it, what else can we add? Onions we had. let's add 1 kilo of onions. Let's put some random text. Oh, I've forgotten. That's not what I wanted. Clear entry, that clears it. So that seemed to be working fine. If I now remove beans again, just select the beans, as you can see, error false, which is all good. Clear, that removes it from the list. Refresh, record's been obviously removed successfully. So everything seems to be working fine. All we've got left now is to check how our print is going to work. So now that I've got a list here, I'm going to select one as done, so we can see actually how the print page will look like. So if I'm just going to print it, save it as PDF, and I'm just going to save it to the desktop. There we go. And if I now open the file, you can see this is our shopping list in case we need to have a printed option with us in store. Rather than having our mobile phone, for instance, there's no reception in the store. So that's how it works. Everything seems to be working great. Next thing to do is obviously to write our tests with Jasmine. So that's something we're going to be focusing on in the next chapter.